At West Side Kids in New York City, the shop's owner, Jennifer Bergman, 58, is concerned that she may not have any toys to sell at Christmas. Toy companies are already marking up prices 10 to 20%. And Ms. Bergman, she said she would try to buy as much as she could now, but that the shortages were already starting. She had placed a large order of scooters to arrive by the summer, but the importer rerouted the shipment to Canada because it did not want to pay the tariff. She was told that she would only get a portion of her order. If the tariffs remain, Christmas will be like, quote, something we've never experienced before, Ms. Bergman said. People will be standing in line to buy things that cost twice or 3 times as much as before, she said. Her business was already under pressure from competition by Amazon, but she fears that tariffs will deliver a final blow. I don't think I will be in business for Christmas, said Ms. Bergman, who added that she was consulting a bankruptcy lawyer.
That is tough.
Donald Trump's America.
And look, this is the arrival of the economic reality of tariffs. You put a tariff on anything, whether it's a doll or it's an iPhone or it's a car, one of 3 things is going to happen. The price is going to go up and production is going to stay how it was. We are going to produce more in the United States. This is Trump's version of the story, where these factories will appear and we will be buying American, the iPhone screwing in. Or a third, we're just going to have less. We're not going to buy that thing. There's going to be less consumption. And the fact is, it looks more like, in the short term, it's got to be inflation or having less. And the magical appearance of American production, it's not on. And that was always going to be true. But what you saw the other day with the president talking about Barbie dolls is at some point you have to admit the reality that there's an inflationary aspect and there's a deprivation aspect here. And there's just no way to avoid it.
You know, he's saying, I mean, I don't know anything about how he's raised his kids, but his parallel is to say instead of buying 30 dolls, you buy 2. Again, that's not how most kids in America are raised, where you go from 30 to 2 dolls. No. How do you lay those numbers onto the average American family?
Well, I tell you, you saw a piece of news this very morning that was real and it was vivid. It wasn't dolls, it was results from McDonald's. McDonald's reported their quarterly earnings this morning and they said less people are coming in. And the CEO of McDonald's was absolutely clear. Consumers are uncertain and they're being more careful about what they buy. Now, there's a lot of people, including a lot of people who work in the White House, for whom going to McDonald's is a cheap meal. But for a lot of Americans, that's a treat. It's a meal you can afford that you go with your family, or it's a little treat you give yourself when you go to breakfast.
Yeah.
But what Americans are thinking is maybe I'll eat that toast at home and I won't get that Egg McMuffin. And, you know, that's telling you that even before the empty ships start to roll into American ports, Americans see what's coming and they're being more careful about their budget. And that's how economic trouble starts.
Sarah Longwell, the politics for any human being would be catastrophic. The politics for someone who ran for president, saying that the price of everything will, quote, go down on day one. I'm talking about the grocery, standing in front of melting meat, should be lights out. Where's the political sort of pendulum swinging on Trump?
Well, I mean, look, you're already seeing the impact of his numbers going down, and not just in his overall approval rating, but his approval on his handling of the economy, which has always been his greatest strength. But one of the things I want to point out, I really have 2 points from listening to voters. One is they definitely think that this is Trump's economy. His thing yesterday about trying to say, oh, this is Joe Biden's stock market. No way. Voters associate him with the tariffs. Many of his voters are sitting there saying, I don't know, my guy's saying this is going to work, so I'm going to wait and see and hope that it works. But a lot of those same Trump voters, right, and this is the second point that I want to make, many people in the Trump coalition are working class and more low income voters. There has been this political realignment that Donald Trump has really supercharged, where the Republican Party is now much more the party of working class voters. Those are the people who are going to be hit by the higher prices. These aren't people who had 30 dolls to begin with. These are people for whom that one doll was very special, and now that doll is going to be out of reach in terms of price. And so it is his voters, in many ways, who are going to be the most negatively impacted. People at the upper end of the income scale, they can say, okay, well, maybe I scale back on a vacation or something. But for people who are saying, I already can only do so much for my kids at Christmas, and now because of Donald Trump's tariffs, I can't afford much of anything. I mean, I hear voters talk like this in focus groups all the time where they said, look, the reason I voted for Donald Trump is because I wanted him to lower prices. And already now they are complaining about the fact that he doesn't seem to be focused on the economy, that he's not doing anything to bring down prices. And they feel that because, $10 here and there makes a big difference in their lives. And so those are the people that are going to be hurt. And I think that's where you're going to start to see some of Trump's floor potentially fall out.
I mean, small business owners are an incredibly important, not just part of the economy, but part of the political landscape. Both sides fight over them ferociously. And I mean, this anecdote has to be playing out all over the country. Sarah, what are you hearing from that part of his support that wanted to emulate something that he was selling as he played a successful business person?
Well, part of what's been interesting to me to listen to people who really support the tariffs, who are trying to give him and say, no, like we should do this, is they have a bunch of different reasons why they are with him on the tariffs. They either say, well, look, we have to do something about the debt, so we're going to pay the debt down, or we need to reshore American jobs. We need to bring back manufacturing, or it's a negotiating tactic. And you hear all these different things, which of course mirrors the chaotic messaging coming from this administration, right? We don't really know why they're doing it. And as a result, it can't be all of those things. You will not accomplish all of those things. I think most people are skeptical you can do any of those things with tariffs. And so I think that for a lot of these voters, especially for the business community that really counted on Trump coming in, cutting regulations, cutting taxes, who thought he would be good for them and were, unfortunately, I think, willing to put aside the sort of threat to democracy that he posed in favor of what they thought were going to be positive business moves from Donald Trump. I think they are going to find themselves the most damaged by this and maybe the most regretful of their choices.
I am endlessly interested in that category of humans and leaders and small business owners and voters, people who thought they could put aside the democracy mumbo jumbo because Trump would make them richer. Trump is going to make everyone poorer.
Well, I think what Wall Street is hoping, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, Wall Street is hoping that Trump is ultimately going to back down on the tariffs. And we've had a pretty sharp rally on Wall Street in the last couple of weeks. We've bounced almost to the level we were at before Liberation Day. And I think that's people looking at this pattern where the going gets tough, either in markets or in the economy, or the popularity ratings fall, and Trump gives concessions or folds. And I think that's what's driving what optimism there is on Wall Street. I have an acronym for this, which is TACO. Trump always chickens out. And I think the taco trade is what is driving Wall Street up recently.